Multiple award-winning artist Niki Srinavasa is a 25-year-old visionary pioneer in the arts, pulling from her multifaceted background to create innovative mixed media works and dynamic projects that inspire others both to connect with their unique inner light and to find the courage in pursuit of their dreams. From showing her own collection in New York Fashion Week at age 19 to being homeless and redefining her path as a self taught artist, creating works for 500 companies, Nikki has persevered with incredible grit to reach for her dreams despite the odds stacked against her. Her paintings have been exhibited around the world in locations like Rockefeller Plaza, the Westfield World Trade Center, and in multiple UNESCO World Heritage sites. And her illustration work has been used in collaboration with major box office films, wineries, even in the popular fashion app Covet, which has been downloaded over 30 million times. With over 27,000 followers and growing on Instagram, Nikki's story, journey, and artistic talent continues to reach thousands. And she has been featured in over 20 publications and outlets, including Nylon Magazine and Apple News. I'm so grateful for you, Nikki, for stepping in today and just sharing what it's like to be an artist because I've always been fascinated, especially you have such a breadth of work that I'm just so excited we can talk about creativity and your journey too, because there's a reason why your work looks the way it does.
Mm. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited and honored to be here and join you today.
It's really exciting for me. I wanted to first just talk about the inspiration behind your work. Like, where currently does it all come from?
I love that question. I'm excited to start there. So, my going back to when I was a little girl, I always saw the world literally through color. So I have a condition called synesthesia, which is where what I hear, I also experience in color. So there's been this dual experience of seeing the real colors of the world, but also seeing almost like a colorful visual artistic interpretation in my own mind. And so Crayola was my best friend when I was little, and I would just make sense of the world through color. And so art was this way for me to be able to express how I really felt and how I really saw the world. And that really prompted a passion in me, both for art and psychology. So I actually studied psychology, and I have a really strong passion and understanding and exploring how those things interplay. So how the synesthesia and the art work together. And
Cool.
you. And so in art, there's a lot of color, there's a lot of brushstrokes, and whenever I am creating something, it always comes from this real deep personal exploration of myself, maybe in trying to understand from a psychological perspective what's going on or what's the story that I'm trying to tell. And that's why my work, again, is very colorful because my world has always been very colorful. So that's a little bit about how maybe why it looks the way it looks. And then in terms of inspiration, I get a lot of inspiration from my life and, where I've been. I grew up in America, but I have parents who immigrated from India when they were college aged. And so I have this duality of experiences growing up, Indian household, but American upbringing. And so in my art, you'll often see symbols that kind of represent both ends of the experiences that I've had.
That's so cool. And what part of the country did you grow up in America?
So I was born and raised in Southern California, Thousand Oaks to be specific. So I'm the first one in my family to be born in California.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I'm from the Midwest, so it's always fascinating to hear too, like, where did people grow up? Because also with art, we get inspired from what's around us. So growing up
Definitely.
While you were playing with your Crayolas, what did you see growing up in your neighborhood, art-wise?
That's a very interesting question. So Thousand Oaks, it's a very suburban, close-knit kind of town, but it's also one that's very like polished and groomed, and they like to make sure that it's all neat and tidy and packaged really beautifully. And so it was only really when I went out to LA, which is about 30 to 2 hours, 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the traffic, that I really got a chance to see art in action and ingrained into the buildings and culture of everyday life, from the public art, even graffiti, and that really inspired me. I've always like my camera roll, I remember growing up was always filled with those kinds of inspirational photos to me of the seeing that kind of art. But around here, there really wasn't much of an art scene. It was, yeah, it's a very beautiful, manufactured, pretty place to live, and I've loved living in Thousand Oaks and growing up there. But yeah, it was LA that really influenced me for sure.
So cool, and it's so interesting too, like you said at the beginning, how psychology has also influenced your art. And what made you explore both the duality of psychology and then also going with your creative edge
Mm.
with art?
I think the art part was always natural. I was always something that was with me. I've always been a creatively inclined person. I've always been crafty. I've always loved that. And then psychology, I didn't even know what I was experiencing was really. I also have ADHD and I have my own mental health struggles as well, with anxiety and some depression and all and things like that. And it was really actually in high school when I took a psychology class where I started to understand that there were real terms and there was real science behind understanding how I was feeling, because growing up with the family that I did, there was rather, don't be seen, don't be heard, just blend in, put your head down, do the work, show up, do well in school. There wasn't really much space for how are you feeling or what's going on with you or what are your challenges? How can I help you? That wasn't really a part of the conversation. So I learned to suppress those things. I didn't realize that it wasn't the typical experience to take 3 hours to take notes on 10 pages, but that was my experience because of my ADHD. So it was really, yeah, my later teen years and then into early adulthood now that I really explored that relationship and how psychology has played a profound role in my life and my journey and how I exist and interact with my art.
Wow. Have you noticed? It was a book I just recently listened to. It was actually Paris Hilton,
Oh,
and she talks about ADHD a lot. And she said that she's now finding that it's more of a gift than
mm.
a curse now that she is older. How has ADHD actually been rewarding in your life?
You're coming out with all the wonderful questions. This is another great question that I feel like most people are like, how does it hinder you or how does it impact you? But I love that looking at it from that lens of how does it help? And the thing with ADHD that I think is pretty cool is when someone's interested in something. So when I'm genuinely interested, I can go so deep into understanding what that's all about. And that has helped me to accumulate sometimes random, but also sometimes not random, like kind of knowledge about a lot of different things that I can maybe speak to. And I have the passion that comes from that, and being able to so deeply explore certain things is really cool. That when we get in that hyper focus mode, sometimes it's, oh man, I need to be doing something else. But it's also, I just learned everything about chimpanzees that there is to learn about chimpanzees. And so who knows? That could be cool. With my art practice, that's one thing where I think the ADHD has supported me, where art is really the one thing where I that focus part that can be so challenging for people who have ADHD, it kind of clicks, and then the noise, the thoughts, the constant motion in the mind that ADHD causes, it almost aids. It's like the synergistic kind of experience where it's pushing me towards, oh, I know exactly what to do next, or I have the exact idea about where I'm going to take this painting. And so it's like the part of me that struggles to focus turns off, and the part of me that is creative and thinking and imaginative with ADHD comes to life when I'm painting. So I definitely could see how it is a gift in a lot of ways, but it
Mm.
definitely also does come with challenges for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure too, growing up, like you said, especially when you have felt like you needed to stay quiet or just buckle down. I definitely was one of those kids. Buckle down into your work and don't necessarily share your challenges. What or how did you use art to break away from staying quiet?
Oh, that's interesting. And I think that is an answer that's more relevant to me now than back then because
Mm,
when I was in that space, you know, every family is different, but I know something that's very common in Asian families, Indian families, there is this deep, like, I need to respect and obey what my parents are saying on a very deep level. And so they didn't really want me to go for art, which is interesting because one of my favorite memories that I have when I was a little kid is sneaking in to this room in my dad's house when he was actually oil painting. And I thought it was so cool. And I remember thinking how, because I loved art, that was something we could share in together. Didn't pan out necessarily in the way I was hoping, but we've come a long way in our relationship there. But they wanted me to focus on the right things, the traditional educational path. And so I didn't really get an opportunity to explore or I guess I could have taken initiative, but it just was overwhelming with everything going on that it was only, I think, again, once I was more on my own out of that high school kind of experience where I really connected with that part of myself. And that is where now I get so inspired by maybe how I'm feeling or what's going on to just bring that to life in a way that isn't just me bringing my own experiences to life, but is also maybe sharing something in a way where other people can see something for themselves and experience the painting in a way that relates to what they're going through, and that's what I've heard, at least from people who have seen my art, is they find something in it for themselves, which is really cool.
mm, yeah. Now, you've also mentioned how you were also in fashion. And yeah, what so you leave high school and at 19, you're fashion week. Like, how or what brought you to that point? Like, what was the transition?
It was actually, so I guess one I did leave out one bright spot in high school where I did get to express myself was in I had to go at 6:30 in the morning to go to a 0 period class that I was taking to try to get some creativity in, and it was again, when I did that, I think it was my senior year of high school where I finally was like, "You know what? I'm gonna have to make that sacrifice and get up earlier, but I'm gonna do it," and just that
Mm,
little bit of tapping into my creativity really ignited something in me, and again, business was the thing that my parents were like, "That's an acceptable thing to maybe pursue," and so somehow a little bit of creativity and a little bit of business, I started to get the idea that maybe fashion might be a mix if they didn't think art was appropriate, but fashion business could be something that was I was interested in, they were cool with kind of. So I started really considering how that would be a part of my life and I genuinely loved it. It wasn't just because it was a convenient thing, but I really did enjoy creating things. Yeah, tapping into that creativity. I loved it and I was enjoying making clothes and designing things. And then I actually went to USC for my whole educational journey has been a whole thing, but I went to USC after graduating high school and I was a part of this fashion club and they do a school-wide fashion show. And they knew that I was a fashion designer and they asked me to create a collection for this fashion show, which was super exciting.
so cool.
So I did that, and it was one of the best experiences. At that time, I was like, "Oh my god, that just lit me up." It felt like I just wanna do that again and again. And then somehow, just one thing led to another, putting it out on social media, trying to ask questions of, like, "How much further can I take this?" And doing research, and I got connected to different people, and I ended up getting this opportunity with the CEO that puts on fashion shows during Fashion Week, who loved my story, loved my work, and they invited me to show a collection at Pier 59, which is, like, one of the big places to
Wow.
do it, and it was a whirlwind, and you know what? It was one of the first times in my life that I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was okay with it, which is I don't know, which was so
Yeah.
cool. I don't know if it was 'cause I was young or what, but man, it was such a cool experience. So that kind of is how that started.
What was it like seeing it, like all your work on that stage on such a big? Care.
Do you know the song by, I think, Nina Simone called Cinnamon? I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I love
That
Nina
was the
Simone.
song. It was remixed a little bit. That was playing when my collection was going, and I remember, like, I'm getting, like, almost emotional thinking about it, but, like, a few days before going in for a meeting with the team, meeting the models and doing the fitting, getting my badge, and it was just like, oh my god, I was nervous and excited, and then the day of the show, I had a car that took me to the location, and the whole team was just amazing, and I stand there backstage and I was watching it on the screen, so I wasn't really enjoying it. It wasn't until a couple days after when I saw the footage that I got to see what it actually looked like.
Wow.
But I'll never forget that at the very end, I got to walk out with my finale gown. The girl who was modeling it, I hand beaded that lace. Like, it was a huge, that gown was such a passion project for me to have put together, and I walked out with her, and everyone was just, like, was cheering, and there were lights, and it was, oh my god, it was amazing. Truly was.
That's so cool. I can't even imagine. What was the stylings of your collection?
So, it was a very spring inspired, it was spring, summer 2019. I remember that was confusing, but they jump ahead, so what the fall fashion week is for the year after, and then so fall 2018 is for spring 2019.
Mm,
It was a lot of I remember I was so excited to mix materials, so there was, like, tweeds and silk and different kinds. Yeah, there was some, like, really pretty, like, cotton twills, and so the color palette, was creams and some, like, blush. I'm not probably doing it justice or making it sound super interesting, but I think what I loved about it too was I was really playful with how the pieces could mix and match. So I made the collection intentionally so that you could make, like, dozens of different outfits out of they weren't just, like, one-off things, and
yeah.
they had a lot of single pieces that were styled together and you could mix and match.
I love clothes where you can mix and match. It's
Mhm.
just good to have some staples that you can go to and then just I always have a certain tank top I love, and then I'll flash it with this coat. It's really wonderful to have those options. And it's funny because you do mixed media art, so you love to
Yeah.
mix and match, right?
Oh,
It
that's a
just
cool connection, yeah.
cool. Especially looking at your work now, I'm like, "Oh, I can picture what her clothing line would look like too." Yeah.
Doesn't look like this. I would it
Maybe not like pattern things, but that idea of just being able to you have a good sense of coloring. If you look at the paintings behind, and for those of you listening, she has a really good blend of like purples and reds and blues, and maybe you wouldn't necessarily think everything would blend together, but it blends so nicely, and you can really see the pop of what the image actually is. And that's
Thank
why I was like, it really resonates with me when I look at your art. So
you, that makes me feel happy. I love
yeah.
those it's so special, I think, when we hear that our work resonates with someone on any level. You're like, "Oh, wow, like, what I do matters." And sometimes it can be a struggle for us to feel like what we do matters, but thank you for saying that.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. I just think you are an amazing person too. Just the brief time we've gotten to know each other. And I really appreciate you sharing your story. And I know that sometimes it's hard to talk about these things too. So I'm just taking basically through your bio and sharing your journey and why your art has become the way it is today.
Mm,
When you had homelessness,
mhm.
people view homelessness as a certain way in America.
They do.
And I'm curious, what was your experience like through that time?
That was a couple years ago. It was 2022.
Um,
That was, I can safely say, probably, the worst year or one of the worst years of my life. It started with my dog of 17 years dying, and it was that kind of was a catalyst. So I had a big falling out with because I was someone who I turned 21 the year COVID happened, and it was people in, like, my age range. There was lost years, it almost feels, of
yeah.
experiences and memories, and because I definitely am of the belief I mean, I don't think your 20s are the time where everything's figured out. I think that they can be rough, and part of that is being out there and experiencing and figuring things out, and so to not have had that was really tough, and I remember, so 2022, things were still weird with COVID. I was at home at the time with my mom, and we ended up having a really bad falling out. And it was really painful to be in a situation where I didn't feel like I could be at home, but I also wasn't in a situation where I was really able to go be on my own either. And there was a lot of, it wasn't stereotypical of like, in a tent on the side of the highway or street that we just think we go immediately to that space, but it was a combination of me and my car, just I didn't have any of my I wasn't creating. I did one painting that year, and I'm very proud of that painting because it definitely reflected where I was at, but I yeah, and then it was also a combination of, I guess you could say, like, couch surfing, never having a permanent place, never having all my stuff with me. So it was this really challenging time because I was also taken advantage of in a lot of different ways by people. And when I was in a very vulnerable place. So it was yeah, I didn't have like one solid roof over my head for a very long time. And it was very difficult to not have even, yeah, it was very difficult, honestly.
But it is really interesting you say to those lost years because for some people, it's just like, oh, we just continue doing what we're doing with work at home. But a lot of people didn't have that option. And especially that is the odd age, right? Well, I'd say like the 20 or maybe even 18 to 22 when people are on that self discovery journey. Some people go to college, some people work on a craft, some people will be in factories. Like there's just so many different ways to start doing our 20s. But if you don't
Mhm.
have that, in especially when the world shut down, you're like, when you're 21, you're like, okay, now I have to go network. I have to go figure this out.
Mhm.
And I can't even imagine what that must have felt like for you.
It was there was a part of me, I'm not gonna lie, like, there was a small part of me that I think was a little bit burnt out because I can tend to when I go all in, I get and so there was a brief time where it was a welcome reprieve to not have to do things because I couldn't do things when COVID first started, but with time, it definitely felt there is that mourning almost that happens with because it's not most people aren't fully established in their early 20s, like you said, 18 to 22, 23. It's when you're just maybe you're getting an education or you're figuring out if you want or you just want to hop into work and all those things that come with beginning a life journey for most people was just when that age bracket was just completely cut off. And so now there's a lot of people who are maybe like 24, 25, 26 that or maybe almost like 21, 22, 23 at heart because we're where maybe people like my sister who's going to be 28 this year, they had those years to figure things out, and so they're, like, not as maybe not that they're not impacted, but, the weight of that, those developmental years, like, of being lost is not as maybe it doesn't have as much gravity as it does for people who are in these, like, certain pivotal groups. I would say also, like, high schoolers, like, the tail end of high school, they probably also felt
Yeah.
a loss, not being able to experience things. So, I think everyone felt we're losing parts of our lives, but it was definitely hard being in that group where it was like, "Man, I'm not able to do these things like that everyone says you're supposed to get to experience at this age," and it was tough. It was very tough, and then again, 2022 came and yeah, it was brutal. It was a very brutal year, not being certain about, like, your living situation and not having that is I will never take for granted that ever again, really, having a roof over your head, truly.
Sure. So what turned it around for you?
I think it was actually thinking about it, it was when I actually decided that even if I needed to I was gonna try and figure out how to start making some art again, and I think that was when I finally finished this one painting. I think it connected me to myself a little bit more, and from then, it was just affirming to myself that, you know what, like, one day, everything's gonna be okay. I just really took it one day at a time, and I was just like, when it's the right time, this things will start to work out, and I'll find a place to live and things like that, and it would just do like, literally talking myself off of those emotional ledges, and then with a little bit of time, the one thing that was a stepping stone was I got this opportunity to collaborate with this pretty famous artist, actually. I don't know if you ever heard of Nelson de la Noez. He's also called the king of pop art
Cool.
because he sold art to Michael Jackson. That's how he got the moniker king of pop art.
Very
And
cool.
somehow it just came across my path that he needed someone, he wanted to work with someone, help him out. It was a job. And at that time, because I didn't have a steady studio thing going on, I decided to like, hey, if you're still looking, I'm here and I would love to help. And he asked me to come in. And when I walked in, I didn't know who he was because he wasn't very clear about that at first. But then I was like, oh my God, I know this art. And right then there's like, yeah, I like you. I like your spunk. Let's do it. And so
Perfect.
that was a stepping stone for me. And then I found a space and then I met my boyfriend. So it was like a series of things worked out at the very end of that year, but it was a lot of being patient and trusting that it would, but it was tough.
Oh, wow. Good for you though for picking yourself up and saying, and also discovering this is what I really want to do, and it makes me feel good.
Mhm.
So that's incredible. What are you currently working on right now?
Cool. So right now, so this right here is just the beginning of it's the underpainting part of a new painting series that I'm working on that I'm so excited about. And the big thing that I'm working towards is launching a line of art products and prints. So that I'm really excited about that. So it'll be things from like phone cases, tapestries, homeware, a lifestyle type of thing. So I'm hoping to have the timeline at least is like early fall. So working on that a lot. And yeah, and also continuing to I have some projects that I'm working on as well, some collaborations, and I'm excited to hopefully get continue securing more of those. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Are you still like in California focusing? Is that where your studio is at, or do you travel around?
Oh, that's actually another thing. I've been getting into doing murals too. That's been a newer development that has been really exciting. And the reason that I thought of that was because for murals, traveling around, whether there's something I'm in the works of talking about right now about possibly doing a mural in Montana, a really big project. So hopefully that will work out. So for that, yes, but my own studio where I do my own things is in California. And I don't know, I love California. I don't know if I'm gonna move, at least in the foreseeable future.
I get that. I'm now in Florida. I was in Chicago, and although I love the art scene there, there's a bunch of murals there too. That might be a good spot. But I just have fallen in love with feeling warm most days.
Yeah.
And when it's raining, I'll put my happy light on. But it's an energy booster. There's something about it being able to see sunlight pretty much 300 days out of the year. It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel the difference when you don't. If it's gloomy, you're like you said, you need the little happy lamp.
Yeah. Exactly. So I wanted to ask you, this is something that, and you shared a bit about your journey, but I always love to ask, how has stress saved your life?
How has stress saved
Stress.
my life?
How has stress saved your life?
That's also so interesting because again, normally we talk about how stress is the enemy, cortisol, all these things. You're gonna die if you're too stressed. You're gonna all these things. Then but you know what? I would say that maybe stress in the form of pressure, for me, when I have those deadlines, that pressure, especially with my ADHD, it keeps me on track for sure. I think stress can be a positive thing. I think when you for me, I think when it has gone down that path of being more harmful is when I'm not certain that I am capable of tackling what I'm stressed about. So then I think it's not as much about the stress, but how I feel about myself or how I'm viewing myself in relationship to the challenge. But I think when you feel stressed and you also have that, you know what, I can do this, I can get through it. And honestly, I think we all just being able to live as long as we have, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, like however old you're at, just having made it to that point, we all are capable of making it through this day, the next day. And
Mm,
that sometimes gives me that peace that, you know what, I can do this and using that stress as a motivator of like, all right, you know what, this is obviously something that's important enough for me to feel this way about. And it helps me to move into it. And I don't know who it was that said, but I think the obstacle is the way or the
mm,
stress, the resistance. that often is hiding what you really need to be focusing on or moving towards. Yeah, so I think stress can be a really positive indicator of where maybe your energy might need to be focused on or where your internal energy is focused on right now, and you need to maybe meet that.
Beautiful.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. That makes perfect sense. I'm so happy that you came in, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing all parts of your life and your creativity. It's very inspirational, and I'm really excited to hear everyone's takeaways.
Thank you so much for having me. You're so lovely, and you've made this such a welcoming space, and I'm so happy we could spend this time and chat.
Same here. How can people connect with you?
Ooh. So the best way would probably be on Instagram or social media, which for me would be at Niki Niki Srinivasa Srinivasa, or through my website, which is www.niki Niki hyphen or dash studio studio.com. So those would probably be the best two ways.
Amazing. And you guys check out her work, and I want you guys to take a look at everything she's got online and continue to dive deep into her art because it's beautiful. And for those of you listening, go to the website. I'm serious. Because I know those of you watching video, you are experiencing the same thing I am right now. Absolutely beautiful work, and there's so much depth and heart in it. So please make sure you reach out to Nikki. And as always, remember to be kind to yourself on this self love journey. Have a beautiful day. I'll be in your earbuds next week.
Bye.